right, welcome to Her Valor, Her Voice, where we amplify the stories of women who've broken barriers in the service to our nation. And we're your hosts, Ms. Malaysia Harrell, Ms. Norma Eli, and I'm Dr. Lorraine Monty Price, bringing you the untold stories of journeys of female veterans through resilience, leadership, and triumph that have shaped our military and our country. So today we continue to honor those who turned challenge into change and history into legacy. This is Her Valor, Her Voice, because every uniform has a story. Today, we're speaking about trailblazing Black women in military leadership. And I am here with two such ladies, and I am so honored to be with you guys. So, we have Colonel retired Norma Eli and Captain retired Malaysia Harrell. Ladies, how are you doing today?
Fantastic.
Amazing. Thank you.
This is so great. You know that you ladies are part of a very rare statistic of Black women who have made it to the level of '06 in the military. So let me just throw out a statistic. So as of recent data, Black women make up approximately 30% of all military branches, but only about 5% of the females become '06 or higher. The Army has the largest representation, while the Marine Corps has the lowest. And there are fewer than 150 Black female '06s right now serving across all branches.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you hear a statistic like that, tell me, what do you think?
I think it's like, wow. I know when I got promoted, and I was so happy and elated because I'm thinking, I made it. Okay. And like you said, the statistics were low, the promotion, statistics, but I made it. I'm thinking, thank the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree because the numbers are probably in proportion also to the amount of people that are actually serving. And so if you look at the number of people who make '06 in general, it's not a large population of people that make it. And so, you know, people of color are a small subset of that. And so the rank is going to be a small subset too. But I remember, because, people are probably wondering, I have Air Force vet, but also Captain retired, which is '06 Navy rank. And so I transferred to the United States Public Health Service after serving in the Air Force. And so the numbers are challenging. And I think that just presents, a different roadmap for people who are trying to obtain, that status. And, like Colonel retired Norma said, is very challenging. I will say that. I feel like that when I talk about that roadmap, it makes us have to do things a lot more strategic and work a lot harder. So,
Yes.
So I'm interested in hearing about you guys' journeys because I'm an '04 and I spent 10 years, nearly 10 years in the Army. And I came in the Army through residency. I mean, I was getting my doctorate. I did my residency. I only had two ranks, '03 and '04. But I would imagine that you guys had a different journey that helped propel you to that '06 level. So I'm going to ask, Captain retired Malaysia Harrell, tell us your journey first. And then Colonel, if you would tell us after that.
Okay.
sure. So my journey was similar to yours. I came in as a clinical social worker, and I came through the residency program after 9/11. And so at that time, I was very patriotic after 9/11. And also I had done junior ROTC in high school, and I did 2 years of ROTC in college. So I did 1 year Army, 1 year Air Force. So I knew that, service was really in my blood at that point anyways. But after 9/11, I knew I needed to go in. And at the time when I went in, I did plan on making it a career. I thought I'd, be a colonel in the United States Air Force. But the Air Force was just a little different because, I mean, at that point when I was in the service, there had not been an '06 African American female that was a clinical social worker. So you knew that that was challenging, and that wasn't why I decided to transfer. There was some tragedies that had happened in my family, and I wanted to be closer to family, and so I needed to, kind of be more stable in one area. And so that was one of the reasons why I made the transition. So, but I had great mentors. And I think that was something that was very helpful for me on my journey. And so now I look at it and I'm like, I want to make sure that I do that same thing to give back to others.
Okay.
Yeah, and I agree. I started out graduating from high school, and I wanted to go to the Air Force and be a pilot. That's what I wanted to do initially. But the back in 1981, the Air Force had a freeze on for a whole year, and I needed to get out of Columbus, Ohio. So I listened to one of my girlfriends who went into the National Guard, and I followed suit because I'm like, okay, I just want to get out of Columbus, Ohio. But however, when I was in AIT and basic training, it dawned on me, look, I don't think I like this, and I don't like to be told what to do and what to think and all the good stuff. There has to be something better. So I got back to Columbus, Ohio, and talked to my Reverend Varner um, at that community church in Columbus, Ohio, and he knew the president of Florida Memorial University, one of the Black historical colleges down in South Florida, and he got me into Florida Memorial, and I'm like, hallelujah. So I was in college, so I was also in the National Guard. So I found a National Guard unit in Miami, Florida, uh, North Miami Beach, and my commander called me into his office and said, "Hey, how would you like to make some money? I heard you were in college. How would you like to make some extra money for your books and such?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm a starving college student." And so he said through ROTC, the SMP program, simultaneous membership program. So that's how I uh, became an officer. So upon graduation, because I did my ROTC at the University of Miami in conjunction with Florida Memorial University. So when I graduated, I became a second lieutenant upon graduation. And so that was my start. And so I knew that I had at the time, it's like it was a matter of like, okay, the roadmap. What it is that I need to do in order to get to a certain rank? And I looked, at the rank structure, and I knew that I was interested in becoming a general one day. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I would like to do. Okay, and so that's what I was striving to do. And so, based on doing everything that was required, educational requirements, promotions, evaluations, being the best that I could be. And so that's what I thrive, to become. And so, the rest is history. And so I think I did a very good job. I didn't make it to the 1 star, but that's okay. Colonel is good to go with me.
That's right.
But it sounds like both of you ladies had a goal in mind. Mm-hmm. Your mind was already set of where you wanted to go. This wasn't something that you were just going to see how it works. Let's just see what happens. You two were intentional about reaching the higher echelons of rank. Tell me a little bit more about that, how you guys approached it.
Well, for me, I think it's anything that I do in life, and that just started from childhood. It's like I'm the person that goes and, meets the people that who I want to be like or have, a career like or have mentors. I have mentors in different areas of my life. And so I wasn't planning on going into anything and just doing it for a short period of time. My great grandmother, before I went in, she had passed away. And she told me, she said, you can get as many degrees as you want, but don't keep switching jobs. So back in the day, people they stayed at the same job for 40 years. Like that was what they did. And
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, at the time, so 9/11 hadn't happened yet, but I was thinking I either wanted to go in the FBI and do criminal profiling because I was doing forensics at
Oh,
that time, and coming out of working in the prison system. And so when 9/11 happened, I was like, oh, this is a job you can move every couple of years and and still stay in the same career field, like my great grandmother told me. So it just kind of worked out that way. But again, I don't want to do anything and just be mediocre. That's not, my ancestors, my family. That's not how I was raised. And so why not? Of course, it needs to be in alignment with what God has for me. But at the same time, why would you not try to be the best that you can be? It's not necessarily about obtaining a rank. I think the military puts these ranks out there, of course, and they want us to build us to be great leaders. But it's not necessarily about the rank, but it's about being the best version of yourself as an officer. And if you make that, which still is a goal, then it's great. But what happens is I see a lot of people who want to make those strides, and when they don't, they get so depressed. I've seen people who were just like suicidal because of it.
oh
And
my
so I'm like, okay, let's look at just being the best person that you can be. And like, Ms. Norma said, I wanted to be an admiral, as well. And when my life took a turn and I had the near death experience and couldn't do it, I also was challenged and struck with, what am I going to do with my life? Who am I outside of uniform? So I would just encourage people to be the best human being and leader that you can be. And God may have something so much better for you than just a rank.
And I agree wholeheartedly, with Miss Malaysia. Um, and like I said, even though I came close to being a 1 star, because I felt like the Lord was putting everybody in place to help me. So it was pretty much up to me. I knew that I had also had to be the best that I could be. I knew that I had to compete with my comrades, okay, male white officers, usually, and I had some female white officers I had to compete with too. It's just a matter, in my research, for today, I found out that two of the young ladies that I served with, Deb Katulich and another young lady, that were both West Point graduates, became 1 star generals.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and that, I don't. It's like I was so happy for and elated for them because they made it.
that's
Okay.
Right.
And I didn't know. Well, the one I did know, that she had made it because I ran into her in California, Los Angeles, in a hotel, and it was like, I'm like, Lord, thank you for showing me, okay, and which was fantastic. And the other one, like I said, Deb, I just saw her, just saw it on the website when I was, like I said, researching, and so I knew that competing physically fit, I made sure that I would max the PT test. Okay, I just didn't pass it. I maxed it. Okay, every year, and so I was dedicated because I knew that I had to be the best. The Army says be the best that you can be. So therefore, I was the best that there was. And so, and then also taking care of my soldiers. I was there in order to help to mold, to help them to grow, to shape them. Because I'm thinking, like, had I not been there, where would they have been? There's a lot of my soldiers out there, that I was so happy that I was there for them, caring for them, motivating them, mentoring them, anything that I could do, coaching them, and it's just something I enjoy doing, and so I'm glad that I am a colonel retired.
I think, as you guys are talking about it, I'm just thinking about leadership overall. What I hear you saying is that helping your soldiers
Hmm.
or helping your subordinates get to levels and accomplish things by mentoring, by coaching,
Hmm.
was also part of the charge that you put on yourself
Yes.
as a good leader. Tell
Yeah.
me more about that for you. what did leadership look like? Did you look at the leaders that were in your circle of influence and emulate that, or did you bring your own personal experiences just from having lived, right? And having parents and other people who sewed into you? What helped shape your leadership styles?
I think it was a little bit of both. One thing I will say, at when I got promoted to O5 to commander, I said this at my promotion ceremony. I had a really big promotion ceremony. And one of the things I said was that there is no me, there was no rank slash my last name without my team, without the people. So active duty members, civilians, all the people, and the people in the community, because I was on these big, committees that were, especially in Hawaii, that were for the whole island when it came to family and, abuse prevention and all of that kind of stuff. And so it was a lot of it, the leadership, I think a lot of it was instilled in me prior to going in by my family, because I was primarily raised by my grandmother and my great grandmother. And so, again, they were from the South and they instilled these values. But as far as mentorship, I was blessed to have great mentors, even from childhood, because I wouldn't have been out of the situation I was in had I not. And so I was very big on mentors, and I had a lot of mentors who were 06s while I was even a first lieutenant. And so, I came in as a higher rank as well. And so they were people that whatever they told me. And one of them used to call me General Gresham. My last name was Gresham at the time. Like, he just, they just really pushed me, and I was able to win so many awards. But it was, so I'll just give you an example. When Ms. Norma's talking about instilling in leadership and mentoring, I was literally, so, a lot of times you have to put awards in for your team members.
Mhm.
I remember being in the office on weekends, long hours, writing the best awards, making sure that my team members and civilians got raises. They would get step raises, not just the time off ones. And you got to write those pretty well.
Yeah.
So being a medical officer, which, me and Dr. Imani were medical officers, it's a little different because people don't see you as a regular officer. They're like,
Yeah.
you're not really, they're already looking down at you kind of crazy. But I had line officers who were actually my friends. So I got peer mentorship from them as well, because they taught me how to wear my uniform. When we had open ranks inspection,
Yes.
I always got a day off, as a lieutenant, because I'm coming in, I'm getting a day off, but I'm spending 10,000 hours,
Yeah.
right? But it was just about, if you're coming in there with the highest level of leadership, how you look, how you talk, and the things that you do, you have to be a role model for those people under you. But yes, you bringing them up is, I agree, what's going to help you, but you're not doing it to just get a rank, but it's about the whole team. You have to, this is your new family. The
Yeah.
military gives you your new family. You spend countless hours with these individuals
Yeah.
outside of your family. So don't you want to make that environment exciting when you
Yes.
have the mandatory fun on weekends and on Fridays of the month? Don't you
Yeah.
want to try to like these people? So really, you're just really, it's like you're building your family as you're building yourself.
Yes. Yes. I agree wholeheartedly with you. Um, my father, growing up, he was in the National Guard. And I really didn't know what he was doing, other than him going away 1 week in a month. And there was no interest there for me. There wasn't. However, I think, I'm pretty sure that the Lord directed me, down to Florida. And just so happened, the colonel, a white male, called me into his office to tell me, to introduce, ROTC to me. And I think this is something that I, was predestined to become. It was part of the Lord's plan. I kid you not, because it just so happened the way things happened for me. And then I got in there and I loved it. I really loved it, and I stuck with it as an army reservist. It's like I had to find my own positions, okay, my own billets, okay,
Mhm.
and so it's different than the active duty army.
Right.
So I had to go out there and find, feet, find, pray, beg, and I just knew like they were looking at my OERs, so I had to be the best, and so to present myself, to these units because I knew that all the positions I needed based in what I needed to do, education. I knew that I need to have, a bachelor's degree. I had a bachelor's degree already. It's just amazing that, a lot of officers didn't have bachelor's degrees, but I had a bachelor's degree already. And then I knew that in order for me to get promoted to a major, I needed a master's. So I was just like I said, a roadmap. I was like, look, this is where I want to go, and this is what I need to do. And so, and there was a time parameter that was involved. And so I knew that, like, look, this is what I have to do, and in order, for me to obtain that rank. And so along the way, though, I was able to help others. My soldiers, my peers, and so I found out that I was needed in the places that I went to, the units that I was at, because a lot of times there was no black commanders there. My first battalion command was in Iraq. Okay, I was selected as battalion commander. They put together a battalion for me. They made up a battalion for me, and
Wow.
I was a lieutenant colonel. No, I was a major, promotable, and I'm like, wow. So because the people they sent to me, they were active duty people, they were reservists, National Guard from all over, the world. But however, I'm like, look, come on, we're gonna make it work, and I did. And because of that, that the Lord blessed me with a Bronze Star. However, it wasn't about that. It was about like, look, I had a mission. I knew what I needed to do, and working together, for the good of the army and the soldiers and everybody. And so it was just a wonderful experience for me, and I'm glad that I did it.
Okay. So, how have you ladies balanced authenticity with having to navigate through a system that wasn't set up necessarily for your success as a woman of color, as Malaysia and I are medical. Even my father, when I joined the army, was like, well, I mean, you're an officer,
Right.
but it's in the hospital.
Yeah.
Pop, people come to medical. Folks have mental health issues. I'm a real
Yes.
doctor. I'm a real soldier. I can show you my boots.
Yes.
My PD 214, But how did you ladies balance that? Because I got to the level of 04. You ladies were able to break more ceilings, able to climb higher heights. And I know you two. So the authenticity of loving the Lord and being yourself it's baked in with who you are. But there's also some other things you got to navigate. So how did you guys balance that?
Ooh, this is a really good one because I talk about this all the time, especially with my clients and speaking engagements
Mhm.
on authenticity. That was funny what you said though about be it because we can really relate on that. Look, we were non-combatants
There
in
Right.
you go.
Geneva conventions. Listen, that was so
And I was okay with it.
Mhm.
and so for me, I had come up with a lot of childhood trauma. And so I had built this identity and this mask of being this really strong woman. A lot of, people of color have experienced the same thing. And so I used my career, my grades. I knew at a very young age that me getting good grades got me a lot of attention from, my teachers, and they sold into me and they made sure that I was nominated for all the different programs, and I was in every type of STEM program and gifted writing camps and so many things. So that really put me on the mark. And so I didn't realize that, of course, when I went in, but that was the perfect mechanism for me, where I was at that time. And that's why I was saying when I ended up having to retire, earlier than anticipated after over 20 years, I thought I'd do 30, that it was very devastating for me. I don't feel like I was able to be my true authentic self. Now, the people who work with me directly and my friends, they knew. You know what I mean? I came from a little bit of the
Mhm.
hood. So they, when we kind of let our hair down behind closed doors, I
Mhm.
was able to really be that person. But when I went to the commander's call, we would have an officer call every month where, the wing commander would buy drinks for the entire, or, the higher leadership would buy drinks for everybody. I'm drinking Shirley Temples. I'm not drinking around people. I'm not
Mhm.
doing any of that stuff. Again, with your close friends, you were able to be authentic and they knew who you were. But as an officer, I really felt like I had to wear a mask. And, this is funny because this conversation came up with one of my mentors in the Air Force of how we could wear our hair.
Oh,
Was it okay to wear braids? How are you going to be perceived to wear braids? And this topic is just so serious because I even had someone in the Air Force who was of color. So you got the comments from, the people who weren't of color and then the people who were of color. Oh, she's so successful because she looks this way. She's light skinned and she looks this way. Like, said it in my face. And so it was crazy because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm working 80 hours a week. I'm killing myself. I'm getting all the extra jobs. So when they say who wants to volunteer when you're really voluntold to run
Right.
all these different events and extra things, you're not working 100 hours a week, working on weekends, showing up. So I think it was very challenging for me. It was very challenging because I felt like I was always being judged, for something, even though I'm working and killing myself. Literally, my whole life was the military. I did not even talk outside. When I'm talking with family, I'm just talking about military stuff. They don't even know what I'm talking about. They don't understand acronyms. So that, yeah, it was challenging.
For me, as a leader, I use the key strategies to help me navigate balance, effectively. Because as an Army Reservist, I was in the Army Reserves, but also I had a full time job as an air traffic controller. And so it's just amazing because, in the Army, I was a logistics officer. In my full time occupation, I was an air traffic controller, aviation, controlling the skies,
Yeah.
two totally different. And it was just amazing. I tell the story or that growing up, my brothers and sisters used to say that I used to boss them around, tell them what to do. Okay. And so that's why I was like, okay, maybe, this was what I was, born to be. However, I pretty much, I had to balance, okay, navigate, with the male leadership environments in both worlds, in the Army Reserves world and the world of air traffic control. And so, I had to embrace both worlds, which I did. And when I look back over it, the song, when I look back over my life, it's like I realized that, the Lord was with me and he was helping me because, there was times when, I was told that I as air traffic controller, I couldn't stay in the Army Reserves. I had to get out, but, I didn't let that stop me. I continued, to navigate my schedules to make sure. And then I had to realize also that the federal government, as air traffic controller, they had to work with me, as an Army officer with my schedule to give me weekends off. Okay. So I could, to perform my duties, fostering open communications, as a leader. Um, and and looking back, like I said, I was able to do it, respecting the knowledge and wisdom of others, um, in the Army Reserves, as I went up in rank, it became harder. Okay, because I saw my peers, my counterparts, dropping off because they had not, achieved, the educational requirements, or they were out of shape. They weren't passing the PT test and things like that. Um, I, um, I tried not to show too much, humility. Um, mistakes. I tried my best, to be perfect, and um, and I was sharing with sharing my challenges and expressing my emotions and showing that I was human, okay, and not Wonder Woman like a lot of people thought I was, because when I was in uniform, I looked totally different, in uniform than I looked going to work as air traffic controller, and so I knew that that you know people had to understand that I was an officer, United States Army, but I was also air traffic controller, and it was two different jobs, okay. And but I feel like I was able to do both of them and embrace them, and personalize, prioritize my personal growth and development, you know, both of these jobs, I was selected to do.
So, if you ladies, if you could implement one policy that would increase Black female representation at the senior ranks, what would it be and why?
It's a good question. Um, so I don't know if there would be a specific policy that I would implement.
Hmm.
In the military, in the Air Force, and in the United States Public Health Service, they had different groups and organizations that were specific for different um, ethnicities.
Okay.
And it was both, all the services have that. And I will tell you, I would think that it would behoove people to get connected to those organizations, because a lot of the people who took me under their wing were the senior enlisted people of color.
Mhm.
And so they were back when they came in way before me,
Yes.
and on the medical side for officers, you would have mentors to be able to help you in that realm, but you actually needed people to help you with your leadership in the military. And they knew it. And there's way more enlisted than there are officers. And so what I believe is there needs to be that synergy between both the enlisted and the officers, because I believe that the officers help you become great leaders, but also the enlisted help you to become great leaders as well, because you really work in synergy with them. And so I would think that, it would be helpful for people to get acclimated in those organizations to help you to know the lay of the land. There are so many unwritten rules, although there's so many guidelines, so many protocols, there's so many unwritten rules that
Mhm.
you would know, and they change the land. If you go from base to base, from
Mhm.
Oconus to Conus side,
Yeah.
overseas and in the United States and the US territories, there are different lays of the land in every place that you go, and you need to have those glasses on so that you can be able to navigate.
Yeah.
What I would say though is, because there's all this talk currently about people not being qualified and getting positions because of color or gender, what I would say is to make sure that everybody is put in a position to be able to succeed. And so, and looking at that from all different perspectives. And so, yes, we want to make sure that we have people, because guess what? Everybody can't lead. Everybody is not going to be a successful leader. So
Right.
if you want to recruit, let's just look at it from this perspective. If you want to recruit everybody, then your leadership needs to look like everybody. But you want everybody to be the most qualified people. And
Absolutely.
I know that I was. So, but so that's, I would, create an environment of inclusivity. And so that people have the opportunity to be successful, because if people know that they don't even have a chance, then what is going to make them want to be the best leader that they can be?
Yeah. And I agree. I would say, I in my research for today is like I came across a young lady, Candace, on the web, and she pretty much has a book. She's on LinkedIn, and what she suggested was, build a leadership library. Okay, talk about showing up. Um, and let me see, develop our leadership practice, define new leadership models. I would say there's a lot of motivators, counselors, psychologists out there, for this day and age that we didn't have LinkedIn. We didn't have a lot of the stuff that exists today. So there's a lot of stuff out there on Google that young officers can look at, in which will be very information that's very helpful for them, as well as like this program, listening to us. We're here also that can offer a guidance and assistance moving forward. But it's like I feel like it's easier. It may have been easier for us than it will be for them. um, you know, the young officers that are coming after us. I really do, because I mean, there's a lot of other stuff out there, literature and information, but the times are changing or have changed. As you see, they remove DI, IDA, whatever it is, inclusion. They eliminate that program from. So we had that, but it doesn't exist anymore. So I would just say, be the best person that that the Lord intends for you to be. Live by the Army ethos, okay? And that's what I live by, and that's what I would recommend. Advice for our new leaders.
So what have heard you guys say throughout this recording is that having mentors, having people who have helped strengthen and teach, whether they were other officers or enlisted senior leadership, have been a significant part of your development, plus just your own internal locus of control, knowing that you had to show up in shape.
Yes.
You had to learn your skill and your craft.
Yes.
You have to volunteer for the extra things.
Mhm.
Being mediocre is not going to get it.
Right.
I always say to my son, above and beyond is the standard in
Yes.
this house.
Yes.
And it's the standard in anything that you do, that you want to have the maximum benefit and move to the highest heights.
Yes.
It's got to be exemplary.
You
Yes.
have to be. You have to be exemplary. But I would just add to that. I see a lot of my friends, people who are senior leaders who've developed, including myself, a lot of health challenges towards the end of their career. And I had a retired cousin who was a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army. And, she's not able to care for herself. So sometimes we can get into positions where we're doing too much, and, we don't want to say no. But what I would offer is that to leverage, if you're a great leader, you can leverage your team and
Yes.
to delegate certain things, so you can still, but you don't want to overtax them either. So just really figuring out, and one of the other things is you have to be on all these other committees and organizations.
Yes.
Try to make sure that they align with what you're already doing for your job.
Yes.
Right. And so if there's a company grade officer, I mean, in the military, there's company grade officer. So of course, you're mingling with everybody. But like in the United States Public Health Service, there were different types of leadership positions that mirrored what I did. So if I was in a command position over managing all of the officers for a specific organization, then HR, and doing recruitment, right? That's in alignment with what I was doing. So try to make it all work together in a synergistic way, but keep your health first, because in the Air Force, the motto was service before self and excellence in all you do.
Right.
So when you say service before self, which many of us have done, you have nothing left, because if you don't sow into yourself first, then the mission doesn't exist. You don't exist to be a leader for your team. So I would just modify that a little bit. You have to put more energy into yourself than you do your job. So that's what I learned, but
Yeah, that's
after
an
over 20
important.
years
That
of
is
serving.
definitely an important. That's an important thing to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking of it in the context of still prioritizing self care.
Yes.
Because that's also allowing you to show up your best self and
Yes.
be your strongest self,
Mm-hmm.
mind, body, and spirit. It has to start with self.
Yes.
But when I take care of self, then I can do all those other things.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, so here's our last question. And the last question is, what would be your what would you say to a African American female who has an interest in one day becoming an O6 in at the end of her career or through her career?
You want to start with that one?
I would say go for it. It's like, I would say I would tell her to surround herself with people who can be a sounding board and to help her, in her thinking, and make sure that she have people working for her that have her back, and give candid feedback on what, what she's doing and what's going on around, and remember, who she is. Um, and there's, something unique about her voice and her perspective, and something critical about, the way, she's going to be moving forward. And so I would tell her that any event that she feels uncomfortable, with her commander, okay, the person that she works for, to make sure that um, it's resolved. Don't wait the whole rating period and wait till it comes to the end, and her ratings aren't good because the person didn't particularly do all the things as a commander they should have been doing for her. So I would say, go ahead and resolve that, and move, find another position, or try to, to find another commander if possible. Okay, and not wait. And I would just say, if that's what you want to do, reach for the sky. The sky the limit, and then, ask the Lord if that's the Lord, if that is what the Lord wants you to do, then His will be done.
I love that. She pretty much said it all. I would just add one thing. So, remember when you had to meet with your senior leadership to go over your plan? So, it looked at where you were going for your next assignment, when you're this rank to get to that rank, being in command. And I forget the name, and I think each service may call it something different. I had one leader that was so important, and they said they would have us encourage us to do that plan for every area of our life, though. So as we were looking at, okay, I have to be, in company command or flight command, group command, depending on your service. It was so amazing to actually look at what were the other things that you were accomplishing. So if you were going to be in school, if you were going to have a family, if you were going to start a family, because what I see happens for a lot of women of color who decide to do that, by the time they look at marriage and children, they
Mm-hmm.
might get married towards the end, but they are not able to have children. And
Right.
so I would say, because when you look at just one side of the coin like that, it's very difficult. And, Miss Norma mentioned the spirituality side. So look at all those different areas. If you're going to be buying a house, the whole thing, finances. Okay, are you willing to take care of this house if you know that you're going to be going overseas? It might be challenging to manage it. Will you have somebody else to be able to manage it and pay them, or have a family member?
Right.
There's so many things that you have to look at as that overall umbrella. So I would say to plan your entire life as you're looking at that, because you may be just looking at one perspective. And I
Mm-hmm.
see so many people do it, and some people regret it at the end. Now, some people decide to adopt and do different things, but just look at that entire picture depending on what you're really wanting overall in your life.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Well,
Yes.
thank you, ladies, so much. And I mean, this has been a juicy topic, and I look forward to
Yes.
our next one. So, this has been Her Valor, Her Voice. Join us next time for another compelling and interesting conversation. And make sure that you follow us on all the socials. So, until next time, God bless. Take care.
Bye bye.
Thank you.